nightlife, the low riders, the style, the way we talk, the way we act, like it's right here on the east side.
We begin with breaking news here at 4 o'clock. Mandatory evacuations in place for at least 1,000 people.
What isn't normal, especially here in Los Angeles, is this. Blue
LA has an epidemic of homeless people right now.
So you guys are just used to smog, crazy homeless, and fires.
It's a little gangsta out here.
Man, I used to be writing and be like, where's this shit coming from? Okay. And it's the worst shit I ever heard. Suck my dick 100 times.
These kids and their hip hop, that's not music. You're supposed to play the trumpet like Dizzy Gillespie and go.
I smell weed. What'd you say?
Check.
Yeah.
1. Sounding good. Oh, this is even better than my microphone. But let me change it so that I'm looking towards you a little bit.
Yeah, these are weird. They have.
Am I the first guest in this studio?
Yeah, this is these guys there's like 8 of them.
There's 8 TikTokers.
Yeah.
And this is a content house.
They make $60,000 a month.
That's nothing.
They're like I'm only 20. They're like 19, 20. That's insane.
But now, like, I've come to expect that as the norm. Like, if you're 18-year-old and you just like do a dance trend or something, or that probably sounds even geriatric, millennial of me to even say that, but just before it was like, can you believe these YouTubers are playing with slime and they're making millions of dollars and she's only 12? And that was in 2013.
Oh,
now
shit.
It's boom, 2021. It's TikTok can make you a millionaire overnight. You can also get canceled overnight for saying the wrong thing. And
that seems like that's like you, Shane's, and Duncan's favorite topic to like make fun of.
Oh, to make fun of cancel culture?
Yes.
I guess so, just because it just comes up so much. And I know it sounds virtue signalery, but it's like everyone's opinion on cancel culture is. But now I'm making my opinion on cancel culture. So yeah, it's boring.
While we're in a TikTok house.
Oh, we are in a TikTok house, and it's such a dude's TikTok house. Like, you go into the bathroom, there's an Xbox controller right next to the toilet. The floor has mattresses. There's Axe body spray, and there's a half empty carton of Bud Light.
That's insane. Because like what I'm doing is, it's cool to be able to use a space like this, but at the same time, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Like, the guests I have on are pretty fucking dope, but I feel like the caliber of guests I have on, it's like more of like a long journey. Versus these guys, they're basically TikTok, in my opinion, is the new Disney Channel. Realistically, like the cartoon, like little kid. I was talking to one of my previous guests like 2 days ago. Like, I've been here for a week, and what was he agreed that it was like, this is basically 12-year-olds are the ones that are controlling the culture, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think, because they don't know what sound. They're realistically like a 10-year-old. It's like people have TikTok are like from like honestly like 5 up, and they're the ones that control the culture.
Yeah, and it used to be teenagers maybe in the 80s, and then before that it was. I mean, look at the celebrity culture. If you look at old TV in the 50s, like, it's all old people. There's no teenagers. Like, they all are in their 30s, and it's like all old men looking people. And then it became like about the teenagers, and then became about the Britney Spears age one. And now it's like gone to even, you're saying 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 5-year-olds have it.
They don't even realize, though, I don't feel like.
No.
It's just, that's so, like, that's why, in my opinion, because it is this is kind of like a hip hop podcast, but my goal is to like expand out, right?
Yeah. Hence me.
There we go.
Am I hip hop? Like, on what axis am I hip hop other than like that I've listened to your Dell interview?
Let me tell you how you came onto the podcast. Actually, first let's do a quick intro. This is gonna be a cool one.
Has it started yet? Is this part of the podcast?
We can keep this. I feel like it'll be an intro to the intro.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today I'm with a very special guest. The one and only Ramin Nazer. There we go. And so what were we talking about? We were talking about
how I found you, or how you found me.
How I found you. And this was actually leading up to my first question, honestly. So you opened it up for me, really.
Good.
Basically,
keeping it flowing.
What I've been realizing is, even though hip hop is such a big just like how TikTok's a culture changer, so is hip hop. Everyone wants to be a hip hop artist, or they want some part of the culture, whether it's the clothes, the cars, or whatever, right? And so what I'm doing is unique with how much research and the caliber of guests, but at the same time, there's probably thousands, if not millions, of hip hop podcasts already, right? So the thing I've been realizing is, being in Seattle, there's so much hip hop artists, but people don't think of hip hop in Seattle, right?
They think of Kurt Cobain or what?
Yes,
of
Kurt
Alice in
Cobain.
Chains.
Yes,
Pearl Jam.
Exactly. And I actually never took time to listen to Nirvana until like a month ago.
Interesting. How old are you? 16?
20.
20? Okay, still a baby.
Yes.
I remember when people told me that, and I'm like, 20's not a baby. I'm old. And then later you're like, oh shit, I was a baby then.
And then you remember when you're 10, you say you're not a baby either. And then look at you.
No, 20's good. You're going to have a blast.
Thank you.
You're going to get to drink in a year or something. Or actually, that stuff's not even that fun. It's kind of stupid.
Oh, God, you can become alcoholics
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
I've been playing this simulator game. It's like Sims, but it's more just like asks you questions and stuff. And it keeps a catalog of how you answer. And if you answer one question wrong, you somehow turn into an alcoholic a few steps down. I'm like, geez, that was a fast turn.
Do you get to at least play it out as that alcoholic and have that fun ride? Or it's
Yes.
just you're alcoholic?
So basically, and you don't get to choose the gender. Actually, that's actually kind of crazy. It's a really crazy game. It's called BitLife.
BitLife.
And I didn't realize, because I am the phone master when it comes to games. I play the weirdest games, but like everyone's like, oh shit, what's on your phone, right? And this game I found like 2 days ago from an ad. And basically the game automatically chooses your gender, but there's even a section in the game where you can change your gender and everything like that. And I've gotten to the point where I'm the governor of Sacramento with an alcohol addiction. It's really weird.
Would have been wild before, but now like we've seen the crackhead Toronto mayor, and Arnold's been governor, and Jesse Ventura, and Trump's been president.
Yes.
And, yeah, it's just all on the table now. Who cares?
Right. So the reason how you ended up on the podcast was I'm all about evolving. And I feel like a lot of people, especially when it comes to Seattle, there's so many talented artists, but they get stuck in their own way. So you see artists who should be even mainstream that have been making music for like 10 plus years, but they're somehow only stuck in Seattle, which is awful if there's no record labels or anyone actually looking for Seattle for hip hop. So the beginning of the podcast was to kind of just promote Seattle, but then I realized if I'm only stuck in Seattle, I'm like, it's just a circle jerk basically.
Yeah.
So I need to get out of Seattle myself. And I realized one big thing is like collaborating with podcasts. And the podcasts I listen to, honestly, aren't even hip-hop podcasts.
What do you listen to?
I listen to Duncan.
Yeah, man.
Yes, you.
Thank you so much for listening, man. That's awesome. Wow. So you listen.
Oh, shit. That's insane.
I'm sorry, man. I just got to integrate that really quick. So okay, sorry. You go ahead. You listen, yeah?
Oh, there's a Zoom breakup right there. That's crazy. That was so good.
I love Dunk.
Wow.
I miss him. He used to live here. He used to live in LA. He used to be my neighbor across the street. And then he moved to Asheville, North Carolina, because he's got kids and he doesn't want homeless people stabbing them in the middle of the street like some kind of overprotective helicopter parent. But that's okay.
Damn.
I'll see him in, I don't know, June or something.
There we go. So, Duncan, you. I like Joe Rogan, but like I feel like I took a break from him because during like leading up to the election, I feel like he was getting too political for me. And it was like he was asking the same political questions like every guest. And I'm like, I don't need to listen to
He
this.
got stuck in the rut too, like you're talking about the Seattle rut, and Rogan used to be the refreshing like thing that wasn't mainstream media, and it was just a bunch of stoned guys that also like aliens, that also like jujitsu, that are also comedians. It was a very specific hang, and it was fun at the time, and you kind of grow out of it, or you just end up tuning back in when there's a certain guest, and people describe it as Oprah for men.
Wow.
And I had that experience too, because I was a listener back in 2009, and then you still tune in every now and then it moved to Spotify, and now it's like I don't need to hear Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin and
fucking Miley Cyrus somehow and Demi Lovato. He has some crazy guests, but I don't. Yeah,
I'm not a Rogan hater or anything, though. I really appreciate Joe, but I get why people are pissed at him.
Right, and I've been finding out like majority of my podcasts I've been listening to are like comedians. Like my favorite it probably goes Duncan, then Flagrant 2 with Andrew Schultz, and then The Brilliant Idiots.
The hizzy, or let's see, can I do an Andrew Schultz? Like, dope, that's how I feel. Man, it's wrong, but that's how I feel, man. It's like what Patrice would have done.
Yes.
Why is it wrong? Why can't I just call you a cunt? Why can't I just say it? Now it becomes like Aziz Ansari a little bit.
Yes.
But no, Flagrant 2 is great. Akash is amazing. Akash is the like secret weapon that people don't really know about. I don't think anyone's heard of Akash Singh.
How does he get his hair like that? It's like perfectly
It's perfect. The shoes and just
Yes.
that he's got that like
his eyes.
the biting tone of his voice. He like occupies a certain register in his cadence and he's got great singers too. Alex Media, Mark Gagnon, those the background guys. Yeah, like we have some overlap there. Keep
Yes.
going. Let's see if we've got complete overlap.
He's the one thing I give Andrew Schultz, which I think is awesome. He's like one of the only podcasts I've really seen who shouts out and includes everyone in the production. A lot of people just ignore the fact that there's cameramen or producers or whatever like that, which I think is I really appreciate that. Like I said, I like The Brilliant Idiots, which is of course Andrew Schultz again,
And Charlemagne the God.
which is a really good mix.
So let me understand this. Why, if Biden wants to give reparations, why doesn't he give them out now?
if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Joe Biden said that?
Yeah, that famous line was to Charlemagne. And Charlemagne is such an interesting guy too.
Yes.
And what a unique like looking guy. Like he's just meant to be famous. He just has such a unique look. Like that's a famous guy. I know he tried to be a rapper and then it's like, okay, he's not a rapper. He's a Breakfast Club radio personality.
Hell yeah.
No, I love Charlemagne. Love the Schultz gang.
Hell yeah.
Duncan, of course. Duncan, like so many people love Duncan but don't like Joe Rogan. But you probably wouldn't have known about Duncan
That's
if it wasn't for
true.
Joe. Joe
Wow.
was where I first heard of him.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And Duncan has the craziest outfits when he goes. Do you remember when he came on in a fucking ghillie suit?
Uh-huh.
That was so funny. When the pandemic was first starting, I felt like all the podcasts were getting too political. So I haven't listened lately, but I did tune into Conan's podcast for a while.
That one's good sometimes, or maybe it's good all the time. I've only heard it sometimes.
I think his best part is like before he even has the guests.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember that. I remember when he was talking to Stephen Colbert, though, and they're talking about magical thinking, and Stephen Colbert's family died in a car accident or something. It might have been a different guest. If this is all factually incorrect, I'm sorry. So just for entertainment value, but I'm pretty sure it's right. But his whole family was killed in a car accident, and he ended up... He thought he could wish them back, like in a magical thinking thing, if he suffered and stored his suffering and used it as like currency, like magic mana or something. He has some like long rap, but basically it was surprising to hear him talk like that to Conan when you just kind of see them on late night and you only get to see a surface level version of them. Understandably so, because it's major network TV. But there's like, oh shit, these guys are deeper than I gave them credit for. Of course they are.
That's
of course
like
they're deeper
that's like
than
Alex
I am.
Jones. I feel like he should be talking to Alex Jones there or something.
Yeah.
Like
Alex Jones also very entertaining.
Oh, God.
Don't take it literally, of course, and I get the whole Sandy Hook thing.
Holy
Not
shit, that
no
was bad.
bueno, but man, what an entertaining broadcaster.
yes.
I really respect talent above what they say. Like, I mean,
He does his work.
yeah.
A lot of because a lot of podcasts, which I think is cool, is I always pride which is kind of like egotistical. I feel like, but I always feel like, okay, even if they just somehow my guest did a podcast maybe 2 weeks ago, I could still be their best interview.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like no one does research on their guests besides just looking at if they have a Wikipedia page or listen to like one or two of their songs.
Yeah.
Before this tour, I took like a 2-week break of listening to new music, new podcasts. I literally just zoned in on every guest I was going to have for the week. Shit like that. Like I'm very like dedicated to my guests and like personalizing them. And I feel like if you're just asking your guest, oh, so what inspired you to become a rapper? Or like, what's your favorite song? Who influences you? Oh, actually, what's your favorite color?
Oh yeah. Or you ever hear like, could you talk about that a little? So
Yeah.
you started in hip hop and now you do some R&B. Can you talk about that a little? Like just I don't even ask a question. But I noticed on your Dell interview, like I was impressed with the knowledge you had of him.
Yes.
Especially being 20 years old. I'm like, not only have you heard of Dell, but you already know Deltron and Del the Funky Homo Sapien hieroglyphics, and you're referencing Dr. Octagon and all this other stuff. Like, oh man, he did his research, or he genuinely likes it, or both.
Both, I feel like. I was late to the Dell bus, honestly, also, but I feel like he was actually he's like one of those artists where people are like, oh, you know who he is. And you're like, oh, I actually do know him after listening to these songs.
Yeah.
Like there's songs that I don't even realize I've listened to until like I hear the chorus. It's just baked into the back of my mind.
Yeah, like how much music we've listened to now at this point, where before there was just like a Frank Sinatra CD and a Beatles CD and a Coltrane, or not even CD, just records, but there was like a consumable amount of records. And now through TikTok and YouTube and everything, like the fragments of songs and commercials that we just get blasted into our
Propaganda.
ears. Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool though that you can, even now you can buy for a higher streaming service where there's no commercials.
Yeah. We have access to more, but that also means more distraction. So now it's our responsibility to tune in.
Yeah.
Like you get all the music, but are you going to jump around? Are you going to actually give your focus to something? Or are you going to scroll and listen to half of one song and skip it and then just never... Yeah. But I don't know, there's some value in that too. Like I really can't give advice as to what the best way to consume shit is. Like the kids are going to have a better... thumb on it, finger on the pulse. Yeah.
I think Fridays are my days when I consume new stuff, because that's when all the best stuff comes out, whether it's movies, music. I don't know. I'm honestly not good at reading books. I used to love reading books until it got like forced down my throat in school.
Oh, they still do that?
Yeah. So like it actually like tuned me out of reading books.
What was school like with, because as a 20-year-old, did you get a smartphone in class, or were there like no smartphones in class, or you have to like put it in your locker? Like, what's the deal with that?
I always get shit for it, because when you think of like a black guy, you think of like a stereotypical like schooling, usually shitty, which is bad. Like when you think of a black person, a lot of people have like negative connotations.
Oh yeah, can't stand them. Yeah.
But I had a really good upbringing. Very good. So like I had like iPads I'd take home from school and stuff like that. That you'd get loaned out iPads and like MacBooks and things like that. So at that point, when the school is loaning out iPad, they can't really do much when you have your iPhone next to it, because people will be like, oh no, I'm actually using my iPhone to connect to my iPad. And you have an older teachers are like, oh, that makes sense. But they're actually like playing games, and like their iPads, they're not even using their iPad or whatever. So it was a weird experience in school, but I was the only like black kid at my school too, which was weird too.
Oh, interesting. Where'd you go to school? In Seattle?
It was East Seattle. It's called Mercer Island, and it's like one of the only islands I know of that has bridges. Like most islands in Seattle, you have to take a ferry to. So like in the 80s or something, they finally built bridges.
So you were the voice of black culture at your school?
It was weird.
So you could pretend to take some wild stance and be like, on behalf of all black people, this is just how it is, and you guys better step in line, otherwise you're racist.
Like, yes. They hired I don't even, because my social studies teacher, and was it social studies or something? There's so many different words for social studies now for classes.
Oh, there is? Cool.
Yeah. But my teacher, he had like tenure, so he can say whatever he wanted and teach whatever he wanted. So like, and there was a huge Jewish population in our school, or not even in school, on the island. So like I learned really deep details about like the Holocaust that average public schools, and it was a public school too, that public schools wouldn't understand or even teach really. But one lesson that he taught was how our vice principal was a token teacher, and they had, it was too much of a white staff, so they hired the vice principal to make it look like we were diverse.
Oh, yeah, they love doing that. They love like having the appearance of diversity, and like, okay, yeah, we're gonna put you like, just the fact that everyone knows what the word token means.
Yes.
It's not even, what do you mean by token? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I ended up meeting the vice principal, and then senior year he ended up writing my letter of recommendation.
Hell yeah.
It was a crazy.
To where? Where are you going to school right now?
I was gonna go to school, but I got into my favorite radio station in Seattle.
What's that?
It was called
KVAX?
It's called 92.5.
92.5.
And I was part of their station while I was still in high school. And
That's
then
cool.
I started the podcast because I realized like the ins and out of radio, and there's not really that much money in radio, and you're kind of like a commercial clown.
Yeah.
But podcasting, it's dope. So back to the podcast, like podcasts I listen to and everything like that. So I'm the type of person, like I said, who's always looking to evolve, and I always look at people as like competition, even if they don't even know who the fuck I am.
That's the best way, yeah.
Yes.
Why should your enemies know who you are?
Exactly. So like when it comes to local podcasts, sometimes I'll think they're competition, so I'll reach out to them. But then I started realizing even there's a music scene that's doing like a circle jerk, but there's also a podcast scene that's doing a circle jerk. And there's not many podcasts, and no one in Seattle really. There are a few. I looked up top podcasts in Seattle. I'd never heard of them, but they were winning like awards and shit. So I was like, what the fuck?
Like awards in Seattle or awards on
Like
the national
level. And I was like, who the hell are these people? But I was like, maybe it's. I didn't understand how I didn't know who they were. But basically with these local podcasts that I did know, I realized that they didn't know how to really podcast, and I didn't really know how to like podcast. So it wasn't like we were learning off each other. We just knew how to like record and everything like that, but we didn't know how to get outside of Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what podcast do I genuinely like, and I feel like I can connect to even if they don't know me? Here you are.
Yay! I made the cut.
You're you're my podcast collab that I was like, if there's someone I really want to start when it comes to like outside of Seattle, who do I want to reach out to? And I decided you. And then somehow you reached back out, and I was like, oh fuck.
It's so weird the way you came into my inbox, because I forget if we talked. No, we talked about it off the episode. This wasn't on the episode, but I was going through Adele, the funky Homo sapien phase, and I was like, what is he up to now? I don't know if he's released anything. You know, I'm Googling his most recent interviews, trying to find that, and then yours pops up, and then I'm like, oh, this is a good interview. I'm like, who's this guy? And I'm looking, like, this guy doesn't have that many subscribers at all. Like, how did he get Dell on the? This is amazing. And then like whatever, I'm like listening to it, and then like that same day or maybe early the next day, you reach out, and then the name sounds familiar. I'm like, wait a minute, is that the same? And then I looked it up, like, holy shit, the algorithm is conspiring to put this together, because that is a wild. Of all the people that heard that episode, I was one of them, and then you knew about me the next day. I thought that was wild.
That is insane. Even though I compare myself to like older people for some reason. So what's late to me is you guys would be like, well, it's because you're young.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently just watched. It was probably like 2 or 3 months ago. I watched The Matrix, like all of them for the first time, and I've always heard about it. But do you think that was like a milestone? Is it?
It was made before you were born. That's crazy.
Do people think about breaking the system because of The Matrix, or is people already thinking about this and then The Matrix was made? Like, how big of an impact, like socially and like society-wise, was The Matrix?
It brought it up a notch, but I know personally people that were, talking about that kind of thing, like it's all a simulation, like it's about breaking free of the program and stuff. And then The Matrix came out a few years later, and they're like, oh yeah, it's like The Matrix. And they're saying, what? It's like, what? I was like, it's a movie that just came out. Like they made a movie about the thing I'm describing that put me in a mental hospital. That's nuts. But it did introduce, vocabulary to describe it better.
But The Matrix wasn't like, what was that? It wasn't like Orson Welles when like they did that. Was it Orson Welles who released that radio thing?
War of the Worlds or something? Yeah, where they do the radio show where
people like
thought
killed
it was
themselves.
they thought it was an actual alien invasion, but he's just reading fiction as to promote his book or something. It wasn't like that, but it was a big hit, I remember, in the 90s. Isn't it fun talking about the past? You'll get to do that too. Like maybe you can still do it about age 10, but I'm 36. So when Matrix came out, 1999, I was just a teenager, and it was new to be able to just go to the movies, like to drive yourself, because, you have a learner's permit or something. And we saw it 3 times in the theaters.
Holy shit.
And then when the sequels came out, it was like, oh my God. And then we were really let down by the sequels.
Yeah. They're coming out with a new one too.
Yeah, fourth one, Matrix Annihilation or something.
Oh shit, sounds like it.
And it was the Wachowski brothers at the time, and they both transitioned. I think one transitioned,
Oh,
and
I
then
heard
the other
about
one
this.
did too. And at the time, it was like, what? And now trans people are like they're not normalized yet. Trans people still have
Do they use that
a
like,
way to go in society.
is that their heroes? Or do people even really count
the Wachowskis? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't hear them brought up that much, and I don't really know. Of course, trans people aren't a monolith either, so it's not like, well, these are the people like that we admire. It's probably different for everyone. And
Caitlyn Jenner maybe is like a
opposite.
bigger one. Yeah.
No, most people hate Caitlyn, don't they? Didn't Caitlyn run over a person and they
I
covered
forgot
it up
about
or
that.
something? Hope this doesn't get deleted because of that. I think Caitlyn Jenner's a fair target, though. That's very much punching up. These are billionaires. These are people so famous that they're referenced more times a day than you could ever hope to.
True.
Like if
it's like a YouTube search kind of, like it's just millions of clicks.
Yeah.
And people are just talking about. That's crazy to think about. I don't even know if millionaires or billionaires or celebrities even think about that. Like how many people are just talking about them.
They probably do, and they recognize that there's no bad press and that any reference of them is good for the algorithm to keep them relevant and keep their stock price up.
Wow. And that's the thing, back to the Conan thing even. I stopped listening to the Conan, what is it called? I think it's Conan and Friends. Because he had two, I understand he's a big guy. Not big like fat, but like big as like he's huge. Like one of the hugest late night. I think it's late night.
Mm-hmm.
Personalities ever. So the caliber of guests he has on are like millionaires and maybe even billionaires. He's had fucking Michelle Obama on.
Yeah.
And the people he has on, he tries to like personalize them, but I just can't connect to them whatsoever.
They're too big. They're too clean.
Yeah.
Because Michelle Obama is not going to like belch or make an inappropriate joke on mic. Like what she's going to talk about, and it's going to be. Yeah. I listened to the first Michelle Obama podcast, and it was perfect. Like because Obama is the other guest, and just their interaction is just so sweet, and everything is it's just right. It's too perfect. You want something more. You want it to be raw. You want him to get mad at her for a second, or you want her to get mad at him or something. Maybe not those examples, but you know what I mean.
No, I think that's what people want. I think people, because when you think of the Obamas, you think of them like in one way. Mm-hmm. But I think people, that's why if someone says, 14 years ago, I heard Obama say fuck. People are like, oh shit, that's going on CNN right now. He smoked weed in high school or college. Like that's what people, they dig at that shit because there's nothing.
Yeah. I think Obama even admitted because what's weird is that Clinton got in trouble for admitting Bill Clinton, not Hillary. I forget what Hillary's weed thing is, but Bill was in trouble for. Oh yeah, both of them. Bill was in trouble for smoking, but he always said that I never inhaled though. I smoked, but I never inhaled. And then later, when they asked Obama the same thing, he's like, "Yeah, that's kind of the point."
Oh my.
Yeah, that's the point, you idiot.
That's funny. Fuck. But yeah, so another reason, just besides like listening to your podcast and things, I wanted to compare it to the sync kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like how they were saying, we'll cut, I don't know I guess we can somehow include this part. I
don't know what's the problem. You're afraid. Did you talk shit at all? Because I don't feel like you talked shit.
I don't know if I have. Maybe I haven't. But no. I don't know. I feel like I should just be nice to these guys because they're cool. They let me use the space.
Fuck the sync. That's the worst channel. Watch H3 podcast instead. Go watch.
They got the passing 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah, the platinum plaque.
That's crazy.
2 platinum things.
But there's a lot of I won't even use the sync as an example. I'll use just TikTokers. A lot of TikTokers, I feel like a lot of them don't genuinely like what they're doing. They just know that it's breaking the system. But I feel like you, Duncan, Shane, you guys do things that you genuinely like to do. And you're not really caring about if you gain a lot of fans or got a lot of money. You're doing it out of like true creativity. And even though I'm on a total different genre than you guys, I feel like I can connect to you guys more than other podcasts who are pushing a product versus pushing their creativity.
That's good. Maybe they just haven't. I mean, I can't speak to that mentality. I just, of course, not my own mentality. I meant the TikToker mentality of when you say they're trying to break the system.
Yeah.
What do you mean break the system? Like just like
I'll explain how TikTok works. You can have like a million not a million. Once you have a million followers, then people are viewing it. But you can have like, let's say, 20,000 followers. On Instagram, that's a lot. You're going to get a lot of likes. But you can have 20,000 followers on TikTok and post a video and get 0 views.
it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always, everything is about breaking the system and making it so people are like, holy fuck, what are they doing? They're putting their hand in a blender, or like they're throwing a cat off a roof or whatever it is.
They're trying to pop. They're trying to hit that surface tension level of making an impact on that day, and then the next day it's over. Yeah. That is weird.
So I don't think maybe that's creativity, but I just feel like there's so much. I think I'm just jealous in a way that the people
of course you are. Yeah, I would have been extremely jealous, and I'm putting myself in your frame of mind where these are your peers right now, your contemporaries, and to me, like, I look at them as the other generation. I'm a millennial. We're already done. Like, we had 3 years where it was all about millennials. These millennials with their avocado toast, and they can't adult correctly, and they use Tinder or whatever, and then Zoomers just came by. Like, something happened. Like, no one talked about Zoomers, then all of a sudden, Snapchat, TikTok, just broke it, and millennials became kind of like Gen Xers, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So when I look at TikTokers doing well, like, I don't even have any jealousy. It's like, oh, good for you. You're the next thing that my generation is supposed to be. These kids and their hip hop, that's not music. You're supposed to play the trumpet like Dizzy Gillespie and go but that was seen as they used to call that savage music,
or
like
Satan music. Yeah,
well, bebop, like specifically jazz, stuff like that. This is like wild men, like with their afros and stuff. Like, real music is orchestra and sheet music, and you don't improvise. And then Miles Davis, not that he did everything, but he kind of saw the value in both. Miles grew up kind of wealthy, even though black, in the 40s, 50, no, I think 50s, 60s, and his father was a dentist, so he could afford to go to Juilliard.
Yes.
And then the Juilliard people are like, jazz is shit, jazz is stupid. And then he would go to Birdland and stuff and hear Charlie Parker and Dizzy and stuff. And then the jazz people would think that classical ain't shit. And then he was like, no, they're both important.
See, I know artists who have gone to like college for music, but then there's someone who breaks TikTok within a week. And those guys are artists. But the people who are going into debt, going to college for music,
oh yeah,
they don't get that shine. It's just,
but the shine is not longevity, though. Neil Gaiman had a good piece about how there's all these books that broke the bestseller list and sold 1 billion copies or whatever, and then people don't remember them today, even if they just came out 7 years ago. And then there's books that didn't sell much 100 years ago and are seen as classics today, even if the author died poor. So you really can't judge how important an art is until it lasts the test of time. And that's what I'm hoping. Like, even though everything gets erased eventually, like, I'm hoping that what I make is evergreen and not like just the topical like hit thing of the right now and get 1 million views, and then next week no one gives a shit about your thing. Yeah.
How did you get into podcasting? Is it more recent, or has it been like once podcasting started? Like, how?
I mean, I was into listening to it in 2009 with Mark Maron, Adam Carolla, Kevin Smith, Joe Rogan. These were like the main people, and there wasn't a Apple Podcast app or anything. You have to just get RSS feeds, and it was kind of weird to find it. And then from there, you get tired of those people, and you branch out into more microcosms. Like Duncan is like a Joe Rogan offshoot, and it's like, oh, fuck, or not fuck Joe Rogan, but like Joe Rogan is all right, but like, have you heard this Duncan Trussell Family Hour? It's like Duncan every time. It's not like you have to wait for a good guest and wait for this boring fighter or this guy that says you have to eat all meat, and then there's this guy that says you have to eat all plants, and then there's this guy that says you have to drink water 10 times a day, and like, okay, yeah, they're all selling books. I had enough. And then Duncan was this breath of fresh air, and then from there it just went haywire. That multiplied into another thing, and eventually you take the dive in. I think I started in 2017.
Okay.
But I had been doing the stand-up comedy thing since 2007, and podcasting kind of was, I don't know, it paired with it very well. Like a lot of
peers,
comedians
say that, I feel like.
Yeah, they were starting it, and then there's a resistance because you're like, well, everyone has a podcast. And then eventually you realize that if everyone does have a thing, then you not having one doesn't make you special either.
Oh, shit.
It's like having a social media profile. Everyone has a social media profile.
Wow.
No shit. Yeah. It's like, what are you doing with it? It's not about having,
Wow.
like, I have the most unique medium. The medium is nothing. It's the message.
That's crazy. Because you do so many creative things. You got your comics, you're a comedian, got a podcast. It's just, that's what I want. I like to be around people like that. They're just bursting with creativity.
Are you not right now? What does your ecosystem look like?
I hang out with a lot of artists that are creative, but at the same time, artists are different than podcasters. Like, there's no podcasters. Like anything I've done is basically just trial and error. Right? So I don't know anyone who's successful in any way. Like, there's no podcast. Like, it turns out, even if there's like here's an example. So, and everything I say is 2 to 3 months ago. Like, it might have even been sooner than that, but like 2 to 3 months ago, I interviewed someone who I thought was like a gatekeeper for podcasting in Seattle. And then when I interviewed them about the music scene and radio and podcasting, I knew more things than they did. And I'm still trying to figure out shit. So there's like, oh my gosh, I went surfing today and I have like sand and salt all in my throat, plus the smog. I'm not used to the smog.
Oh yeah,
So
it
it's,
gets
like, killing
used
me.
to. You don't have the refreshing rain to cleanse the air.
Right.
We get
exactly.
rain once a week, or not once a week. Sorry, once a year.
Gosh. So that's the thing. Like, expanding outside of Seattle is really important. And that's why I decided to do this podcast tour. I don't know anyone who's really done a podcast tour. When they do like podcast tours, it's more like something that's a live stream or something like that. But I'm just trying to make I figured out what everyone else is doing. So now I'm trying to figure out how can I expand and do my own thing that's different. So first, I'm going to do a podcast tour to LA, find studios and record out of studios and have cool guests from that specific region or area or whatever thing like that. So
You're doing it.
there we
Yeah,
go.
and I know you don't feel like you're really young, but 20 is super young. And like, who knows? You could
Yeah.
the rate at which things can happen quickly, as you've described with TikTokers and stuff. And I think about it with music. And so I moved to LA in 2014, and I think about like Lil Nas X or someone like that who's 21, 22. So
Right.
when I moved here and I had all my little goals and things, like he was just this tall. And in that time, like he's figured out whatever thing musically and production wise and marketing wise, and then become number one. And you can just do that if you want. And it's not all about being number one, but
Right.
if that's what you want, you could totally do it. I don't think you want to be number one though. I think you want to occupy you want to be a you at scale to where you're a legit thing and not
Yeah.
wondering how to pay bills or whatever.
Yes, that is very true. I feel like I just want to be around creative people. Like, I've already surpassed what I've wanted to do when I was like a little kid. The thing want to do when I was a little kid was to be in radio. I experienced what radio was like, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to be friends with artists? And I remember even saying in my head, I was thinking about this on the drive over here, being at a cool studio like this. I remember saying there was a but to the be friends with cool artists, but I don't care about making money.
Ooh.
So I'm like, if if I think about what I wanted when I was a kid, I've already completed everything I've wanted to do.
You want some money though, right?
Of course.
You don't want $100 bill that arrives to ruin your life. Like that's
Right.
what someone had a good quote. It was like, your money doesn't solve all your problems, but it does solve all your money problems.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of people have nothing but money problems, or that's the main boot on their neck. And
Yeah.
once that, I know with me, like it was a big game changer. Like I was much more upset and jealous when
Wow.
I didn't make money. And now I make money not working for anyone. I can nap all day. I can nap all month.
Yes.
All good. So I'm a happy boy. If I see someone make $1 billion on Bitcoin or NFT, I'm like, good for you. Way more than
Wow.
I've got, but I wouldn't have been able to use all that anyway.
See, that's what I want. I just want to be able to like uplift artists of any type and be able to like live happily.
Yeah. And think extremely long game. Like whatever you
Yes.
want, be okay with like hammering away at it for 20 years or
Yeah.
whatever thing it is. It all changes so fast, as we've seen in 2019 to 2020 to
Yeah.
2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you have a Patreon? And if
Yeah.
you do, break down like for just podcasters in general, like how Patreon is helpful for podcasting. Because from my perspective, I don't have a Patreon yet, but I've seen that you could have like 100 subscribers, and if they're all paying $10 a month, that's like $1,000.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the depth versus width thing that you were saying on TikTok, where you can have 1 million subscribers, but no one watched that video, and then you can have 100 true Spartan 300 fans that are like there for anything you do. They're 100% there. Amanda Palmer talked about it, like I think 1,000 true fans is all you need. And this was in 2012 or something, where she talked about that's all you need. 1,000 really true fans that are into what you do, which doesn't mean they're only fans of you. They might be fans of other things. Other people might be fans of them. It's kind of interesting how idols have been ripped apart in the last 20 years. There's not like Elvis and the Beatles. There's 1 million different Elvises, 1 million different Beatleses. And like, how many people knew about Elvis when he was it? Like, the population was smaller, the means of distribution was smaller. So there's YouTubers now that have a bigger following than Elvis, not proportionally to the population, but in terms of like heads and people listening to it, it's pretty wild.
And I've realized there's different things. There's like YouTube famous, there's TikTok famous, there's so many different famouses or successfulnesses.
They're all little games. There's this blog I read recently called Not Boring. I forget the author, but you can just look up Not Boring, and it talks about the great online game, and we're all playing the great online game right now. Some of us are playing Fortnite, Call of Duty, Smash Brothers. Some of us are one level deeper playing Instagram. You're playing TikTok, and you don't even have to be you. You can make a fake name, fake avatar. You can make 100 of them, make different viewpoints. You could have a right-wing political pundit person. You could puppet another one. You could puppet a centrist one if you care to. I don't care to do that, but it is important to...
Sounds like a psychopath, honestly.
I think like a psychopath could think, but it just doesn't sound fun to me. I'm like, a sociopath could do this, but I'm not going to do that because that seems...
That's the thing. They think that's fun, though.
Yeah. Yeah. They have like the smaller amygdala or something. So when other humans are suffering, they like don't feel it or they're happy. Whereas I'm like, I don't even want to ask like a restaurant to give me my food correctly if they got it wrong. I'm like, that's okay. I don't want to bother you. You don't get paid that much. I'll tip you 30% anyway.
Right. Yeah. I've never genuinely told someone to take my food back, but I feel like if someone messed it up and I truly thought it was messed up, I would say take it back. But there's some people, even if it's genuinely messed up, they'd be just as happy.
Yeah, I mean, if there's hairs in it and flies and whatever, sure. But if it's like, let's say you ordered no mayo and then it comes with mayo, I'm not going to be like, excuse me, I said no, I'm just not going to have the interaction. I'm going to be like, whatever, it's food.
True. So how many years did it take for you being like a creative till you realized you could, even if it was only like $1,500 a month off whatever you're doing? How old were you, and like how long did it take for you to start making enough money where you didn't have to have like a 9-to-5 job?
The first time I didn't need a job was in 2010, and I'd figured it out financially with stand-up comedy and website building.
Oh,
so before I used to be a website designer, and I had a day job, and then I left that. And then I could support myself just with stand-up gigs, just with taking the web stuff. Then moved to LA and started to just taper off the web stuff. I got sick of it, and I started doing more illustration stuff. That led to posters and helping commission with other people. The podcast started eventually. That was a source of income. So technically last time I had a job was 2010, but in terms of figuring it out, it's been like dips where it's like I figured out from 2011 to 12 to 13. I'm hovering pretty low, 2014 to 15.
Wow.
Okay, I figured it out 2016, and then big financial crash 2018 because I'd like gotten credit card debt and I hadn't paid it off in time. And debt can accrue compound wise to where you're like not keeping up with the minimum payments, and your car is getting repossessed. That was my lowest, when I like had my car repossessed and like credit card debt and stuff. But that was 2017, 18. And then since then I figured it out. I think that was a big enough scare to where I was like, I have to really get my finance shit on point. And from there, I've just kind of I've learned to play with it better. Who knows? I might dip again. You never know, because look at what happened with COVID. So many people that were luckily I wasn't dependent on touring. I was all digital, but some people were dependent on touring.
That's dope, though.
And then they had to lost all their income.
Wow.
But no, so 2010 is the first time, and then 2018 was the second time I really figured it out.
Did you have a savings in 2010, or was it like you just found a job that officially made it? So like paycheck to paycheck.
I had a little bit of savings, but honestly, I wasn't that good at saving.
Okay.
I would spend it, and I didn't monitor it right, and I didn't invest in Bitcoin. Oh man, I had a Bitcoin. Like I had $75 worth of Bitcoin in 2011, and I can't find the wallet, and I think that laptop is gone. But oh man, that would be worth so much, but it's gone now. I can't think about it anymore because it was just on that computer.
And you gave it away or something?
Well, the computer broke, or the motherboard was fried, but I don't know if the hard drive was. But at the time, I didn't really think much of it. I'm like, whatever, it's just $75 or something. Like it's I don't want to take it to the store and figure out how to extract it. Like I can just make that amount of money in the same time it would take to do that. But you can spend all day thinking of, if I just invested in Netflix, or if I just invested in Apple, like you can do that forever. The opportunities are in front of you right now. It's all about right now. What should you do? But I don't care about finances that much. I just want to do what I want to do and not have bills come tap me on the shoulder and annoy me. That's really the motivation for money.
Hell yeah. So with your art, when it comes to like comics and stuff, is that all digital, or do you draw with pen, or like how does
I draw it by pencil, then I pen over the pencil part, then I scan it.
Oh shit.
Then I do the coloring and texturing in Photoshop, and occasionally I'll do all digital stuff or all analog stuff, but for the most part it's a combination of that, like the general look that you see, like, you know how sometimes you'll stumble across one and be like, that's kind of different from the rest, but most of them have the same aesthetic. Those are all half digital, half analog. And
did you have, it seems like the Midnight Gospel had like a lot of like similarities when it comes to like illustration as yours. Did you have any like help? Did you help Midnight Gospel at all?
People ask that. I take that as a big compliment, but no, I didn't. The first I knew about it was I had taped an episode at Duncan's place back when he lived in Silver Lake, and he was like, man, I'm working on a new show. Would it be all right if I use some of this audio for it? Because it's about an apocalypse and a multiverse, and it's like using the podcast, but it's still in the early phases. And I said like, oh yeah, sure. And I thought nothing of it. And then later the show came out. Mine didn't make the cut. I'm not in the show or anything, but
maybe
I knew
two.
Maybe. I know that he was working on something a while ago, and then when it came out, it was like, holy shit, this is like the best show out right now, and it was the perfect timed show. But the animator on it, the main guy is Pendleton Ward, and he did Adventure Time and some other stuff, which has a pretty, we're in the same family, I think, of aesthetic, like the kind of thick line, bright colors, somewhat minimalist, like kind of childlike looking cartoons, but that was dope. Him. But as for like where it became more purple, who knows? That's like maybe more Duncan.
Wow.
But basically, yeah, I'll take credit for the whole thing. Duncan saw my art and said, let's make it like this, and then he made it like that.
So how did you end up meeting Duncan?
First time I met him was 2011 at the Fun Fest in Austin, Texas, or it might have been Moon Tower. There's these two comedy festivals that were pretty close together. Fun is a music and comedy and everything festival, but it was one of those two, and I think the first time I just told him that I was a fan and that I listened to all his episodes and stuff, and that wasn't that much of an interaction. But the second time he saw my set and he liked it.
Oh, so it was like a comedian festival, or?
Yeah. Oh. So he saw my stand-up set and he liked it, and he was doing another set that week and asked me to come open for him. So I got to open for him that night. And then from there, when I came to visit LA, like sometimes I'd reach out to him and see if he was doing a show, and then I'd talk to him afterwards. And then we did a episode of another friend, a mutual friend's podcast. So like kind of like these little like interactions over the years. And then he did my show or I did his, one of those two. And ever since then, yeah, it's weird thinking about that. Someone who's your hero, like someone you tune into, and they're like this larger than life figure, and then you have interactions with them, and then the next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I'm part of their little universe or their big universe. That's pretty cool.
That is crazy. He has it's like the Duncan Trussell effect. Like sometimes I'll check out some of his guests, like what they do, and you're an offshoot of.
Yeah,
Duncan.
He has many children. I'm one of his children. Like Michael Phillip of Third Eye Drops, Colin Frangisetto of Cosmic Nod, maybe Future Fossils a little bit. Future Fossils is its own thing, but the people that are like talking about, how existence is and the whole Ram Dass, McKenna, Alan Watts, meditation, psychedelics,
I think
sort of thing.
You've done 2 with him in the past year, I think.
With Duncan?
Yeah.
I've been on his show twice. He's been on mine 2 or 3 times.
So I think the first one at the beginning of it was like in the beginning of the pandemic or something, and you were talking about something psychedelic, like you're like in a temple or something, or you're talking about a temple. It was a really weird. I forget the exact. I have to re-listen to it, but it was a crazy episode, and the stuff you were talking about. I was like, holy shit, I need to check this guy out. But
temple. We were talking about a temple?
I think you were talking about a temple or some like ritual that you went to, or you were talking about a ritual that happened. I forget what happened. It was a really weird episode, but I don't even know where it was. Do you remember what you were talking about?
Never. No, I don't remember what I talked about yesterday.
It was really weird, but it was enough for me to be like, I need to check this guy out.
Oh, good.
So tell me how you met Shane Moss. That's a cool connection too. Like I love seeing how you guys all switch between each other's podcasts and things like that.
Yeah, we've got our little ecosystem. I'm guilty of it too. I really resonate with what you were saying with the like getting stuck in your niche and not evolving like the way a shark does, and you're just a shark forever. And I guess I'm rereading that Sapiens book. You ever read Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari? It was a big book in, I think, 2016. And it's about, what we are, Homo sapiens, and why we're like the top dog, and how did we get here, and how long have we been here? And we know that we've evolved a lot, but it puts it in a really clear perspective where other animals that are top predators worked their way up there through millions of years. And so they're comfortable there. Like a hawk is like confident. It's like, I'm a hawk. I can kill anything. I'm top. Shark, very confident. It's got that big grin, those evil eyes. Wow. And then humans, we're the top of the food chain by far, but we just got here like 100,000 years ago.
It's weird that we're on the top of the food chain when it comes to like intelligence, but we would get mauled by even like what's a small animal that could still fuck us up?
A honey badger.
A honey badger.
Like a small female raccoon could fuck you up.
Like the animals that Duncan sends after people who don't subscribe to his Patreon.
Crows, man! He sends crows!
Yeah.
We just think about like we're so weak. Even if you're like a strong bodybuilder, like you can't take on a bear. I didn't realize until this was actually like a month ago, which is embarrassing. But I thought that if there was like a bear in your neighborhood, or even like, what was it, a tiger or something in your neighborhood, if you jumped on like a car or climbed a tree, you'd be fine. I didn't realize that bears like are almost faster running up a tree than they are on flat surface.
Just black bears, right?
Is it just black bears?
I forget. It's like...
And tigers can sprint up trees, and jaguars
easy. But I think with black bears, you're supposed to play dead, and then grizzly bears, you're supposed to climb a tree, or vice versa. Basically, one of them is good at climbing. The other one is going to leave you alone if it thinks you're dead and not a threat to its babies.
That's crazy.
Oh, I didn't even answer your question. I went off on Sapiens instead of Shane Moss. So I met Shane also as a comedian in maybe 2009, and... we've just been friends since then. Like I was his podcast editor in 2013 through 15 or something. And I was just new in LA and I needed money and he needed help making his podcast. I'm like, I can help with that. I can help with the web stuff. And, we also like would talk on the phone anyway. We just talk about the universe and, and philosophy and what makes us who we are, and complain about things and all that. And I don't know why it took us so long to do a show together. Like one day it just kind of clicked, and we just were like, let's make this a show instead
Mind
of private.
over matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's sad though? It's not sad for you guys, but when I was doing research on Mind Over Matter, there's actually another podcast. it would have been around for like a year or two, a couple years.
Oh, but that's called over. See, ours is called under.
Okay.
Mind under matter.
There we go.
Yeah, but mind over matter. That makes sense that would be a name. We were going to call it Look Ma No Meaning at first, but then people would have thought it was an atheist podcast. And I don't know, all those brands are like atheism as a like exercise is fun, but you know, same with libertarianism, atheism, like these little ecosystems of I'm right, you're wrong. What evidence do you have? It gets kind of boring.
You probably understand like religions more than you and Duncan probably understand religions more than like the average person, I'm guessing.
Him more than me, probably. I feel like he's more of a scholar of the Bhagavad Gita and the Buddhist texts and stuff. I'm more of a general guy, and I get like the gist of it, but then it's the nitty gritty. I don't know, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll catch up with him.
I can't even get Christianity right. I'm still trying to figure out. Like I was.
Are you Christian?
I don't like. See, that's the thing. Like, are you supposed to be a religion? I remember I did.
No, you're not even supposed to like be a gender or a sexuality now. Like it's the lines are blurring, and that's very cool because before it's like you're a man, you got to wear a suit and go to the business land like this, and then it's like okay, you're a man, but you can have long hair. That's okay, I guess. And then and like next step, and anyone who thinks that we're gonna put that back in a box, like we're going back to like we're going back to the way it was in the 50s. Nice try. It's never gonna go back to the way it was, and that's good.
That's refreshing to hear. That's kind of crazy because I don't think anything should be in a box, but I always felt like this woke stuff would probably die down like a circle. But maybe it's just expands probably though.
It might go like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Because I always bring up like the 60s and 70s, and then it followed by like the Reagan 80s, the very Republican, yuppie, corporate kind of vibe, as opposed to the counterculture, flower power, psychedelic vibe of the 60s and early 70s. So it might swing back that way. We saw it with Trump in 2016, like it swung back, like Make America Great Again, and we are the silent majority. Never with the culture. The culture has kind of moved left and it stays left, and hence the Leviathan leans left.
And that comes from kids, or like are kids more or young people more left, or is it just?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it comes with just you tolerate those that are different from you with each generation, maybe because it's safer. Because go back 100,000 years, it's like, oh crap, the different tribe, they're coming to take our resources. We're going to die. It's like every day it's a fight for survival. So of course you hate your other tribes. And all the animal kingdom does that too. I'm like a spokesperson for the Sapiens book now. Like keep bringing up the things of it. But the like other, like chimps do not cooperate across bloodlines. Like if you're not in the chimp family, you're an enemy. So we like to think that, well, the animal kingdom is all nice. It's vicious if you're not family. True. But you and I, we're not blood related. Same with like the people we're using the studio. We're like from way different parts of the world genetically, but we all cooperate. We're like all cool with each other. And that's why we're top of the food chain, not because we have big muscles. Our muscles suck. Like a raccoon, like we said, could kick our ass, but we cooperate. Or like, hey, if you get behind the raccoon and we get 2 of my buddies over, like, I think we could take this raccoon. And then eventually we're like, I think if I threw a rock at the raccoon, or if I built this stick with the rock, or I think if this electric, whatever, on and on and on. And the cooperation aspect is very huge. That's what makes us still alive, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I went to church because I don't really know like how religion works at all, honestly. And I thought that I was Christian, maybe because I went to church when I was young. But if you're actually part of a religion, aren't you supposed to like continue to follow it, really? Or like,
yeah, that's tough.
Do I just tell people? Well, I don't even want to tell people I'm Christian because I don't think maybe I am, but I don't understand like how Jesus works or anything. Like the other day I had a podcast, but like I don't even understand like what happened to Jesus in that cave, or like how any of that worked. Or some people think Jesus is black, even like.
That's more likely than if he was white. Like if you look at where he lived at what time, like the odds of his skin being white are very minimal.
But he was really like genuinely like a real person. There's no way there's like a myth. Like, is Jesus in the Bible?
Is he in the Bible?
See, I don't even know any of this.
I mean, he's in the Bible, but New Testament, right? I don't even know that well. I don't think he's in the Old Testament. It's too far before him. But yeah, especially because all these it wasn't even written down for the first 400 years. So it's like word of mouth on the campfire story, and we've played telephone before. We know how quickly it gets out of hand. So, but also all these stories that are in the Bible, they start to reappear in like X-Men and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, like these story arcs, the mythology that is the Bible, like we end up repeating it in all our other art. So there's something fundamental about the Christian story, but as far as the details and like you're not supposed to marry your aunt's sister unless she owns 3 goats or whatever weird rules are in the that's not a real rule, but you know, when people are like, well, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, like all that kind of stuff. It's the specifics that are heavily aligned to what the 80s Republican Party is. That's probably not what the Bible is about. That's it's probably a different thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about religion. Like, could there be a thing where like there's an apocalypse and then like when humans come back into existence, where, you know, like how people think of like the Egyptians and like, oh, they actually might have known stuff. Maybe there were aliens because of what they're writing on the walls. What if like civilization ends today, but then like it evolves or whatever?
Yeah,
right?
People think it might have already happened.
Will people look at like X-Men and stuff and think we thought the X-Men were real? Or
Probably.
Like how does that work?
They're going to extrapolate from everything. Like, let's say the only thing left is like a Wolverine doll and it's missing an arm, and it's like, oh, they worshiped this one-armed god with 3 claws, and 3 represents the Trinity, the Spirit, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and so on. Like,
wow.
Do you ever watch Ancient Aliens?
Sometime with Andrew Zukopoulos. Is that one guy?
Oh, what's his name? I think it's Andrej Tsoukalos, Georgios Tsoukalos, something Tsoukalos, a Greek guy. And
butchered his name too.
I only seen a few episodes, but it's so funny how it'll start with this like bird statue, and then they're like, we believe this was a ship that landed near the Pyramid of Giza, and then they make a 3D animation of the spaceship. Like, wait, hold on, why is that a spaceship and not a bird? But I get it, it's entertainment.
That is true. That's crazy. So what is next for you? You've been doing this podcast. Is that it's not something that's just gonna be like around for like a limited time? The mind under matter thing, is that just like,
I think we're here for a while. I don't know though, like dynasties can die pretty quickly.
Oh, no.
I'm a fan of History Hyenas. I think that was only around for a few years, and they split up amicably, but I think they were getting too wild. And like Chris DiStefano has a deal with TBS or something, so he's trying to tone it down, because they get so wild, but not in a cancelable way yet. I don't know if it's because they're under the radar or something, but they were making like $60,000 a month on Patreon, or $100,000 a month or something. They were doing really well, but they just ended abruptly. So who knows? Maybe Mind Under Matter is one day we just be like, okay, we got to stop this for a while. But as I'm speaking to you now, we're in it for the long run. We've got big plans. Going to do a Vegas show in November, maybe. Duncan might be there too. Or actually, I think Duncan is going, and then we might be there. We're not even set on the Vegas show.
How is Duncan like in? We'll get back to it. This is an offshoot question. How is Duncan like compared to like the comedian? Like how big? Like, because I genuinely like listen to him. Like I'm a fan. I don't really understand.
What are his numbers like?
Not numbers. Just like how does he place like an influence in the actual like comedian world and everything, podcasting world and everything like that? It's like, is he actually like a big force, or is it just because like I genuinely like him that I'm listening to everything?
He's a decent force for sure. I don't know where I'd put him, like in terms of, is he bigger than Marin? Probably not. We know he's not bigger than Rogan. Is he bigger than
Andrew Schultz?
Ooh, maybe not. Like, because Andrew Schultz is very, they tackle pop culture. Like if LeBron says something, like they're talking about that, they've got a clip with captions the next day. They're like very, he cares about building an empire, and he's very good at it. He's a very good business mind. Like if you don't think his jokes are that funny, like you got to at least respect the business acumen. Did you ever hear him talk about how, so he was doing the regular stand-up comedy thing, trying to get a Netflix special, a Comedy Central, whatever, and no one's biting because he's straight white male, and of course that's like
white males. Fuck you guys.
Cis white male, and I get it, because if you look at the 80s, that's like all they were doing is cis white males, and then token black guy, token lesbian woman, and that's it. And now they're trying to correct that, and I think it's good. Even in LA shows, it's kind of like a unwritten rule, like you don't want to have more than like 3 straight white dudes on your lineup. Like you got to mix it up a little bit. But what was I talking about with the example of Andrew Schultz's business thing?
The YouTube thing,
yeah,
right?
he figured out that no one is going to click on a 2-hour special, but they're going to sit and watch 5-minute clips for 4 hours. So like you don't want to sit down for a long time, but you will give your time away if it's a decision. Because it's like, do you want to watch this next clip? Which next clip do you want to watch? You feel like you're driving.
So is it because he's also kind of old? He's not old. Look, what is old anymore? But he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
Is he just old, young?
He's not old. He's just, that's prime, I think. 30s to 40s is prime.
Is he young enough that he just understood like the younger culture and what they would click on, or he just saw like trends in society? Or is it more that he's tapping into like what younger people like?
I don't even think it's about younger. I think it's he figured out the new platform. So Dane Cook did this in 2003, where he was the only guy using MySpace, whereas other comedians were like, what's this internet shit? This is stupid. I don't want a MySpace. And then he put all his energy into making a nice MySpace page, put his content there, whereas other comedians were like, I'm not burning my content. If they hear the joke, they won't want to come see me. And he saw it the other way. Like, no, the more they see of me, the more relevant I am. Rob Delaney was kind of that with Twitter. And then Schultz did the Dane Cook thing with YouTube because he's like, no, comedians aren't putting their sets up. They're not putting captions up. People want to watch sets with captions. This is a huge thing. And now it's pretty common, but he cracked it before everyone else.
Wow. It's just cool. It's like he's someone who genuinely understands like the come up for people though. So he's not afraid to like put people on, not like put people on, like give them a platform, but he's not afraid to shout out people, whether it's his production crew or just shouting out, who is this? There's this skit show that I just found out because he like shouted it out.
A kids show?
No, skit show.
Oh, skit.
Oh, what is it called? He was some guy. He was like some comedian like on SNL, and he like left and then started his own. I forget the name of it. But anyways, see, I'm not good at
like
shouting.
Recent.
Yeah.
Was SNL ever relevant to your generation?
I don't think so. I don't think a lot of people even understand SNL. How did I get back? I think it's important for everything. I like pop culture stuff. So I understand like what everything's going on, even older stuff. Like I think I like to do research on things.
You mentioned that you like the 60s and 70s era of music.
That's my favorite era.
Isn't that crazy? Like that we're not confined to our time now. Like it's so easy to just be like, actually, I'm more of a 40s guy. Like I love Cab Calloway. That just hits me for some reason. Then some people are 80s kids, and some people are old and they love Billie Eilish, and it's just whatever. It's all just there. That
is very true. And I'm not even like an old soul. I just like doing the research. But yeah, Andrew Schultz is, I think he's very inspirational in my opinion. Even though I don't know him personally.
And he's so fair. I think he's very fair. He occupies this space that isn't the, I'm not afraid to say it. I'll keep using whatever words I want because I'm a truth teller kind of guy. And their poster has like a duct tape on their mouth. Like that's kind of that's boring. That's kind of hack. And then it's also hack to be too sensitive, too woke and stuff. And he's just not afraid to. It's so funny. Like if Chris D'Elia is canceled, he's calling him that same day. Like, boy, what's going on?
It's fucking nuts.
And he'll probably have Chris D'Elia on. He's had Alex Jones on.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to touch controversial figures and that sort of thing. I put him, Tim Dillon, Giannis Pappas, Chris DiStefano. They're like part of this new class of like.
I don't give. They're like uncancelable, but they don't give a fuck at the same time.
They're kind of like the Comedy Cellar table.
I think we got like 5 more minutes, right? Yeah. Cool. We're about done, and then
Cool.
See, it's like
what was this? This
our
podcast was just about Andrew Schultz.
Oh God, that's so crazy. Like, yeah, there's just so many things we could talk about because you're a podcasting. Like once you're talk to other podcasters, like your mind's like always racing. You can just talk about whatever topics. I feel like.
Yeah, and some people are not that good at it. Like they're good artists or something, and then you get them in the podcast realm, and they're just like, well, I first started when I was in elementary school. And
it's crazy. Like We'll do. Hopefully, we're going to do your side. Like, but we have
if
so
we've
much.
got time and space.
It's just.
We've got producers standing behind us with guns to our heads now. We got to wrap it up.
The NAST podcast has producers now, guys.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Well, Ramin Nazer. Is it Ramin Nazer?
A Nazer, but Nazer is fine too.
I feel like you need like a oomph to your name for some reason. I was like Nazer. I don't know. But
I like Nazer. It's like laser, but
oh, that is true.
I mean, if we're in Iran, it would probably be pronounced Nazer. That's the actual one, but that's like a lot to put people through, I think.
Mine's actually Balake.
Oh, is it?
No.
Okay.
But let's end real quick. What is some advice that you have for up and coming artists, creators, influencers?
Think long term. Don't get discouraged if it's not happening as quick as you want it to. You wouldn't want it to happen too fast. I think when you look at the people you really, really love, you'll see in their story that they had some hardship and
10 years of actual grind.
Yeah. So you want to actually develop that that grit or whatever it is. It builds character. It's good. But if you get really successful overnight, then that's great. Try not to blow all your money. Try to put it in some safe spots so that you don't die. But other than that, just do stuff. Just do stuff.
Hell yeah. And what's the easiest way for people to reach you?
Go to raminnazer.com or rainbowbrainskull.com is where I put all my everythings, and check it out and listen to the podcast. And maybe there'll be one with Blake on it, depending on how this recording situation goes. But if not immediately, there will be in the future. So check that out. And
This is the NAST podcast with
Ramin Nazer, coming at you live from Seattle 94.7 KFM. The
There we
Box.
go.